Good morning. Good morning. My name is Kimberly Bishop. I'm Associate State Director at AARP Michigan, and I'd like to thank you for joining us this morning for Learn a Latte. I hope you have your cup of coffee or tea or whatever you choose to start your day with. If it's your first time joining us, thank you for being here. If you've been with us before, I'm glad you decided to come back. Today's topic isn't the most fun, but it is very, very important. In recognition of World Elder Abuse Day, which is June 15th, we'll be talking about elder abuse today. So, again, thank you for being here. I'd like to introduce our speaker. Please join me in welcoming Angie Shepard from the Region 2 Area Agency on Aging. Thanks for joining us, Angie.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
Angie is the program manager. She's been with Region 2 since 2011. She's a licensed social worker. She's a certified nonprofit professional. She's worked as a supports coordinator for the My Choice Waiver program for 7 years and has been providing leadership for the Safe Haven program since 2018. So she's very knowledgeable about this topic. Angie also helps to oversee the agency's Community Transition Services program. So, welcome, Angie.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you for spending some time with us this morning. I have a couple questions to get us started, but I really would like to invite our viewers to post their questions in the comments section so that we can answer them live. I do need to remind everyone that we'll be sharing general information, but if you have a specific question related to a unique situation, we're going to recommend that you reach out to your local agency, area agency on aging, or one of the other resources that you'll hear about today. So does that sound fair, Angie?
Sounds good to
Oh
me.
my goodness. Okay. So Angie, before we get started, or as we get started, what is elder abuse?
So, elder abuse is defined as an intentional act or failure to act that causes or creates a risk of harm to an older adult. So, generally, when we think about an older adult, we think of someone 60 or older. And generally, the abuse occurs at the hands of a caregiver or a person that the older adult trusts. And there are numerous different types of elder abuse. Abuse can be physical, it can be sexual, it can be emotional or psychological abuse. It could also be neglect of providing adequate care to an older adult, could also be considered abandonment, or financial or material exploitation is also considered abuse.
Okay. Do you have you've shared that it's often a caregiver, but outside of caregivers, who might normally commit the abuse?
Generally, it's going to be somebody that the older adult knows and trusts, unfortunately. Typically it's going to be either a family member or somebody that's caring for that person on a regular basis. The National Council on Elder Abuse shared a statistic that between 53 and 64% of elder abuse victims and their perpetrators lived together at the time of the offense. So most of the time, it's going to be somebody that the person lives with and knows and trusts.
I know that Region 2 and all the area agencies on aging, their goal is to keep people at home for as long as safely possible. But if someone has a loved one who might be in long-term care in a nursing home, what should they look out for in terms of abuse?
If somebody is living in a facility of some type of care home or nursing facility, you're going to want to look for red flags of elder abuse, and that could be various different things. Those red flags can be physical. If they're experiencing any type of physical abuse, you're going to be looking at things like bruises, or scratches or tears in the skin. It could also be bed sores. Maybe if that person is, if they're not being cared for properly, that's something that you would want to look for if somebody is in a facility. Um, any type of any type of sores or wounds on the skin is really something that you want to look out for. Now, there's also emotional or psychological signs of abuse. Go ahead. Did you
No, you're
okay.
answering what I was going to ask. Go ahead.
Okay, okay. And that can be a little more difficult. It's not quite so black and white. So that could be if somebody is, showing signs of depression or anxiety that maybe weren't there before. Maybe they seem frightened or scared of a certain person or a certain situation. They might be isolating themselves from situations they normally would not have done that. They might be isolating themselves from their family or friends or activities that they maybe used to enjoy. So those are all things that you're going to want to look out for, and a lot of times there's going to be more than one sign. It's not going to be
Right.
just one thing. You're going to be looking for multiple things that are red flags to you, whether they're in a facility or not.
So it's what I'm taking from this is abuse can be something that's physical and very intentional, but neglect is really also a form of abuse as well.
It is because if you have someone who is in charge of someone's care, you're providing care for someone, and that's your responsibility, and and you're not doing that properly. You're not making sure that someone is getting proper medical care, or maybe they're not being clean, their hygiene's not being paid attention to, or if it's someone who's bedbound and needs to be turned regularly. All of those things could be considered neglect of providing adequate care, and that is a form of elder abuse.
Okay, so one of the questions or one of the ARP's focus areas is on financial security. So, can you talk a little bit about financial abuse? And I'm starting to see a question is coming in on elder or financial abuse as well.
Yes, financial abuse is illegally or improperly using an older adult's funds, property, or assets, using them in an improper way, misusing them, taking their money, their possessions, or could also be coercing or deceiving into an older person into giving money or signing a document such as a contract or a will. And it could also be the improper use of a conservatorship or guardianship or power of attorney. That can be really difficult for older adults. Most of the time, they're on a limited income anyway, or maybe they have a savings, but that savings is meant to be to pay for care for them so that they can have the care and stay in the setting that they want to stay in. So that can be really devastating. It could also be scams or fraud, which you see, we hear about so much of that these days about romance scams and social security fraud, and even people using COVID as an excuse to scam people out of their money. That all falls into under the umbrella of financial abuse.
So it's interesting that you've mentioned romance scams because it's not always um, an older adult who needs to be completely cared for. It may be someone who's 60 or older and lonely. And I'm saying 60 and older because you said that's typically the age that's considered elder abuse. And I see like online a number of times where people try to befriend you and start, really personal questions. Or I've even gotten where they say, "Did you hear about this? This program where you can, I got $80,000, and I'll tell them I already got 180,000. So thanks." And I think part of one thing that may work against some older adults in terms of those kinds of abuses is that they may be more trusting, or if someone says they're from social security or the government, or they have this program that they qualify for, that they'll tend to believe them. So when we think about elder abuse, I don't want our viewers just to think about those who may need care, but you have to look at signs of financial abuse, even for people who are still managing their own finances. So we've got a couple of things in the chat, and this is from Laura, is more of a comment than a question. Um, Financial exploitation. She says adult protective services did not help when she called. She wished she had pressed them to do something. They interviewed and accepted the excuses from those who stole. that died in worse poverty than when she first called. So that really is unfortunate. And it sounds like people really need to be diligent about looking out for someone who's not in a position to look out for themselves. So we have a question from Mary, and this is a tough question. Mary wants to know if you think your family member is a victim of elder abuse by a paid caregiver, should you confront the caregiver?
That is a tough question. And I think it really sort of depends on the situation and the caregiver's relationship to the older adult and the relationship to you. But my advice on that would be no. I don't think that it's not necessarily your job as a family member to intervene or confront somebody that you think that is mistreating the older adult in your life. It's always better to leave that to the professionals and call Adult Protective Services. Make a report. Anybody can make a report to Adult Protective Services. It doesn't have to be a mandated reporter or a professional. Anybody can do that 24/7. Um, Day or night, you can call Adult Protective Services and make a referral, and their job is to go in and make do an investigation, interview the person, interview the family, interview the people who are surrounding the older adult, and they will take the steps necessary to put interventions in place. It's just better to let them do it. You don't want to put yourself in an unsafe situation. Could also potentially make the situation more unsafe for the older adult as well. So really always just better to let the professionals do it and call APS and bring them into the situation. And if you're in Michigan, that phone number to call APS is 855-444-3911. And like I said, you can call anytime, day or night, 24/7.
So if um, I'm just thinking about that situation of a paid caregiver. Suppose I'm the person paying the caregiver. Maybe I'm paying for my mother's care. Um, I might not feel comfortable waiting for APS to do an investigation. What would you suggest in a situation like that?
You can also always call 911. I mean, that's always an option if you suspect somebody's being mistreated. And I think if you are involved in that manner and you're involved with the person's finances and you're paying that caregiver, then absolutely, I think you could say, we're gonna put this on hold for right now until we get some more information, just to keep that person away from the older adult. I think that's appropriate.
Very good. So, what should someone do if they are suspecting abuse by family members? Would you say that the response is any different?
No, I think it's going to be the same if whether it's family or not. You're either going to call 911 or you're going to call Adult Protective Services or both. You can always call both too. The law enforcement are mandated reporters, so if they are called onto the scene first, they're going to make a report to APS as well. So most likely, if you do that, it's going to go through the proper channels. But whether it doesn't matter who the perpetrator is, just notifying the authorities is really the best way to go.
And we have a comment from Laura who says that her local police have been very helpful. So I know that, as we think about family caregivers, because again, with the area agencies on aging, we're really trying to end, and ARP has research that shows that people want to stay at home and in their communities for as long as is safely possible. And we know that caregiving can be really tough, for people because it's also 24/7. What should caregivers do if they're feeling burned out so that they don't get to a situation where neglect or abuse may happen unintentionally?
Yeah, that's really important that as a caregiver, you do reach out if you're starting to feel burnout, if you're starting to feel like the responsibility that you have is too much and you need assistance. I would really encourage you to contact your local area agency on aging. We have numerous resources available for caregivers, including the person may even qualify for additional assistance. They may qualify for programs where extra caregivers can come into the home to give the primary caregiver a break. We have classes and support groups and all that sort of thing for caregivers. So if you actually in Michigan, if you go to our it's 4ami.org is the website, and that's where you can look up the contact information for your local area agency on aging, to reach out to them. We always tell people, just to reach out to us. It doesn't matter what your question is or what you're needing help with, because if we can't help you with it, we're going to find somebody who can.
That's really important. If there was a situation, for example, if I had a friend or neighbor, or even not an immediate family member, and I suspected something and reported to Adult Protective Services, would they identify who made the report?
You can always make an anonymous report to Adult Protective Services. In the state of Michigan, if you choose to make an anonymous report, that will be kept anonymous unless there is an extreme circumstance where maybe the court needs to get involved. Then you could possibly have your identity revealed, but majority of the time that the person that made that referral can be remain anonymous, and because they understand that that's not always it's not always in the best interest of the person reporting for that to be released to the client or to other family members and things like that. So you just ask when you do make that report, just ask that it remain anonymous.
And Angie, I know that we use this term all the time, but can you identify what a family caregiver is? Because in my experience, I think that people don't consider themselves caregivers. They just go, that's my husband, that's my wife, that's my mother, that's my brother or sister, like that's what I do. But can you just identify what a family caregiver is so that people know who we're talking about, and really that they may be a caregiver and should call the area agency on aging to find out what options they may have?
Yes, absolutely. I think a family caregiver is anybody who is related or close or has a close relationship to an older adult. It doesn't even have to be an older adult. It could be even a child or a younger, adult who has a disability. If you're providing any kind of day-to-day care for that person, and maybe it's not even necessarily hands-on care. Maybe it's just that you're helping manage their finances, or maybe you're just getting groceries for them. Anything that you are doing to make sure that their needs are being met, that makes you a caregiver. And yeah, maybe it is your spouse, maybe it is a parent, maybe it's an aunt or an uncle or a neighbor. But anything that you're doing to make their day to day life easier and safer, you are considered a caregiver, and you can possibly experience that burnout that we talked about. So maybe reaching out for help is a good option.
So have you noticed any, I hate to say trends, but really any trends in elder abuse since the pandemic started?
Um, I can't really say that there's been any specific trends. I do think that we are hearing and seeing more of the frauds and the scams. Like I said, scammers will take any opportunity they can to take advantage of people. So we're always really trying to just educate older adults, and everyone, just be really wary about people calling you on the phone, people getting a hold of you online on social media, and asking you to send them money of any amount for any reason. That is really should be a red flag for you, for
Or
every
for any personal information either?
or personal information. Don't give out your social security number to anyone, your date of birth, your address, any of that. Just be really, really wary and conscious about who you're sharing information with, because that could potentially have some really devastating effects. If someone gets a hold of that information, or trying to get you to send them money for whatever reason. Most of the time it's not legit.
Right.
So just, and you can always reach out again to your local area agency on aging if you're not sure. Say, I just need some help looking into this. Is this a legit request. Is it a legit person who is asking me for this? Because we'd be happy to help you out with that, or call your local law enforcement as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I just wondered, when I asked about trends during the pandemic, because for so long we were, safer at home,
Yep.
and when people are isolated, I think sometimes it leads to different kinds of decision making than if you were out and about and talking to people more, or people were in visiting you more. Because I know of many older adults who they weren't willing to let people in during the pandemic, because they were during the height of the pandemic, because they were cautious about getting COVID, particularly before there were vaccines available. So we have Laura, who also has a comment suggesting that people beware of someone buying groceries that doesn't live in the home. APS wrote that one person was doing this, and they did it in order to get access to her dad's money. So it's the strangers bearing gifts, and they may not even completely be strangers, because you stated, was it 53% of people who are victimized by people that they live with, so likely to be relatives or close friends. Well, Angie, thank you for spending some time with us this morning. We know this isn't the most fun or comfortable topic, but it's important, and we wanted to be sure to leave you with some information about the topic. So, Angie, as we close, we heard lots of great things today, but could you just refresh and leave us with two things? One is signs of abuse, and the second is who to contact.
Yes.
I know you said it, but just as a refresher.
Yep, just as a reminder. So, signs of abuse you're looking for physical abuse. Again, it could be bruises, scrapes, scratches, tears in the skin, anything, and maybe the older adult can't explain it. Definitely, that's a red flag. Um, and then also the emotional or psychological signs, the depression, anxiety, isolating. Um, and then also for financial abuse, are the bills getting paid? Does the person appear to have enough funds to buy groceries and the things that they need, but their medication and the things that they normally have to do to live day to day? Anything that just seems off to you, I always say, just call APS, report it, have them come out. And again, that phone number for Adult Protective Services in Michigan is 855-444-3911. Call them. They're there to help. Always remember that they're there to help. Or call your local law enforcement or your local area agency on aging.
Well, Angie, thank you so much for being with us again. I always like talking to you, and next time, hopefully, it'll be a more pleasant topic, just as important. But thank you for being here. And I'd
Thank you.
like to thank everyone for taking some time out to watch us this morning. And you can visit our website, arp.org/mi, to see all of our upcoming events. And remember to contact your local area agency on aging, to find out how they may help you navigate aging in your community and staying in place. So thank you, and everyone have a fantastic day. The sun is shining here, and I hope it's shining where you are as well. So have a great day.